Hello, everyone, and welcome to this important episode of Ignition Time. I have breaking news for you. This was something that many of us saw coming, but this is a big jolt. This is a big surprise, a big setback for the Democratic Party. Here's the headline of an article on your screen from CNN. Manchin appends Democrats' push to enact Biden's agenda this month, calling for a pause on the $3.5 trillion bill. I want our viewers and subscribers to know that this is a huge setback for the Democrats because Joe Manchin is a very, very important Democratic swing vote in the Senate. In fact, he threw a major wrench into the party's plans, demanding that the Democrats take what he calls a strategic pause before considering the $3.5 trillion stimulus bill. In fact, he wrote a very, very strong letter in the Wall Street Journal, and I'll be providing you with a link to that resource. Make sure to click like, click subscribe, enable notifications, please, if you appreciate all our efforts. I'll get to that in just a second. Here's another headline on your screen from Bloomberg. Manchin jolts the Democrats by urging pause on the $3.5 trillion bill. In fact, this conservative Democrat from West Virginia could determine the fate of the $3.5 trillion stimulus plan. He has actually questioned the size of the tax and the spending plan. And this right here on your screen is his article, something he wrote in the Wall Street Journal. This is a brand new article. And he writes, "Why I won't support spending another $3.5 trillion. This is astonishing because this is a huge setback for the Democrats. And I promise you that the Republicans, like the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, will be loving this." In fact, Manchin writes, "Amid inflation, debt, and the inevitability of future crisis, Congress needs to take a strategic pause." In fact, let's take a look at a video where Joe Manchin tells the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that the Senate should hit the pause button on President Biden's $3.5 trillion budget proposal. Let's roll the tape and hear from Senator Joe Manchin, and he's speaking here with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Let's watch.
I would ask my colleagues and all of the Senate to hit the pause button on the 3.5. Hit the pause button. Let's sit back. Let's see what happens. We've got so much on our plate. We really have an awful lot. I think that would be the prudent, wise thing to do. I know they're going to go nuts right now because it's probably being, what I just said is going to all my caucus in Washington.
Here they come.
But I'm thinking of it from the standpoint of where we are as a nation today, that we weren't here a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Everything has changed. And I don't know what the unknown is. I don't know what the future on this is. I know one thing, I want to be prepared for it. I want to be able to take care of our military that can defend us anywhere in the world if it's called upon. I want to make sure our economy is still robust. I want to make sure we're bringing manufacturing back and opportunities. I don't want to have debt over our head to where we basically can't service the debt that we have. All those things are very much concerning to me. And with all that hanging in limbo right now, Shelley will tell you, the 3.5 trillion, there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's things in there that she, at a certain, would like, that Democrats and Republicans can agree on. But it's not anything that we need immediately.
Now, let's get back to the Wall Street Journal article. These are the words of the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. He writes this: "The nation faces an unprecedented array of challenges and will inevitably encounter additional crises in the future. Yet some in Congress have a strange belief there is an infinite supply of money to deal with any current or future crisis, and that spending trillions upon trillions will have no negative consequences for the future. I disagree." And Joe Manchin writes, "An overheating economy has imposed a costly inflation tax on every middle and working class American. At $28.7 trillion and growing, the nation's debt has reached record levels. Over the past 18 months, we've spent more than $5 trillion responding to the pandemic. Now, Democratic congressional leaders propose to pass the largest single spending bill in history with no regard to rising inflation, crippling debt, or the inevitability of future crisis. Ignoring the fiscal consequences of our policy choices will create a disastrous future for the next generation of Americans." Those who believe such concerns are overstated should ask themselves, what do we do if the pandemic gets worse under the next viral mutation? What do we do if there's a financial crisis like the one that led to the Great Recession? What if we face a terrorist attack or major international conflict. How will America respond to such crisis if we needlessly spend trillions of dollars today? Folks, before I continue reading Joe Manchin's words, I have to tell you that this is a direct contradiction of what the Democrats, including the president, have said all along. So you can see that Joe Manchin is essentially going against the White House, against President Biden, and the entire Democratic establishment. This is big news, folks. He continues writing, instead of rushing to spend trillions on new government programs and additional stimulus funding, Congress should hit a strategic pause on the budget reconciliation legislation. By the way, he's referring to the $3.5 trillion reconciliation plan that House Speaker Pelosi has been trying to pass and has been trying to get to President Biden's desk. Joe Manchin continues, a pause is warranted because it will provide more clarity on the trajectory of the pandemic and it will allow us to determine whether inflation is transitory or not. While some may have suggested this reconciliation legislation must be passed now, I believe that making budgetary decisions under artificial political deadlines never leads to good policy or sound decisions. I have always said if I can't explain it, I can't vote for it. And I can't explain why my Democratic colleagues are rushing to spend $3.5 trillion. Let me add, it's and this comes from me, folks. This is $3.5 trillion of money we don't have because the country is in debt. Let me continue quoting Joe Manchin. Another reason to pause. We must allow for a complete reporting and analysis of the implications a multi-trillion-dollar bill will have for this generation and the next. Such a strategic pause will allow every member of Congress to use the transparent committee process to debate what should we fund and what can we simply not afford. I, for one, will not support a $3.5 trillion bill. Folks, this is as clear as it gets. He also writes, I will not support a $3.5 trillion bill or anywhere near that level of additional spending without greater clarity about why Congress chooses to ignore the serious effects inflation and debt have on existing government programs. This is even more important now as the Social Security and Medicare trustees have sounded the alarm that these life-saving programs will be insolvent and benefits could start to be reduced as soon as 2026 for Medicare and 2033, a year earlier than previously projected for Social Security. Establishing an artificial $3.5 trillion spending number and then reverse engineering the partisan social priorities that should be funded is not how you make good policy. Undoubtedly, some will argue that bold social policy action must be taken now. While I share the belief that we should help those who need it the most, we must always be honest about the present economic reality. Wow, folks, this is pretty upfront, and this is, in many ways, folks, this is a slap in the face of the traditional Democratic establishment. I can tell you that Republicans will be loving this. Let's continue quoting Senator Joe Manchin. Inflation continues to rise and is bleeding the value of Americans' wages and income. More than 10.1 million jobs remain open. Our economy, as the Biden administration has correctly pointed out, has reached record levels of quarterly growth. This positive economic reality makes clear that the purpose of the proposed $3.5 trillion in new spending is not to solve urgent problems, but to re-envision America's social policies. While my fellow Democrats will disagree, I believe that spending trillions more dollars not only ignores present economic reality, but makes it certain that America will be fiscally weakened when it faces a future recession or national emergency. In 2017, my Republican friends used the privileged legislative procedure of budget reconciliation to rush through a partisan tax bill that added more than $1 trillion to the national debt and put investors ahead of workers. Then, Democrats rightfully criticized this budgetary tactic. Now, my Democratic friends want to use the same tactic to push through sweeping legislation to make, in quotes, historic investments. Respectfully, it was wrong when the Republicans did it, and it is wrong now. If we want to invest in America, a goal I support, then let's take the time to get it right and determine what is absolutely necessary. Now, folks, we're getting towards the end of this letter. Many in Washington have convinced themselves we can add trillions of dollars more to our nearly $29 trillion national debt with no repercussions. Regardless of political party, elected leaders are sent to Washington to make tough, decisions and not simply go along to get along. Folks, this is as direct as it gets, and this is a pretty incredible letter, I can tell you, as I'm processing the information myself for our viewers and subscribers. Finally, Manchin writes this: for those who will dismiss my unwillingness to support a $3.5 trillion bill as political posturing, I hope they heed the powerful words of Admiral Mike Mullen, a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who called debt the biggest threat to national security. His comments echoed the fear and concern I've heard from many economic experts I've personally met with. At a time of intense political and policy divisions, it would serve us well to remember that members of Congress swear allegiance to this nation and fidelity to its constitution, not to a political party, by placing a strategic pause on this budgetary proposal, by significantly reducing the size of any possible reconciliation bill to only what America can afford and needs to spend. We can and will build a better and stronger nation for all our families. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, folks. These are the words of the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. I encourage you to listen to his words carefully. Watch this video again if you have to. Share this video with friends and family, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. Let me know what you think of this slap in the face, if you will, from Joe Manchin towards the entire Democratic establishment. And I believe this will lead to a restructuring of the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. I believe this is an open battle between the White House and the Democrats on one side and Joe Manchin, the conservative Democrat, on the other side. Without his vote, the Democrats cannot get it done. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I believe that this will lead to a significant reduction in the size of the $3.5 trillion stimulus plan. I do still believe we'll see a large stimulus on top of the $1 trillion bipartisan stimulus, but it looks unlikely that that package will now be $3.5 trillion. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. This right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.